G'day, legends. Welcome back to Roadside, presented by Zwift. We are back for a fortnightly show. The Giro is over, and we're headed to the Tour de France. Tommy, it's been a big week. Dauphine's kicked off. We're just starting to get a little bit of posturing from the big favourites ahead of the Tour de France, mate. But how have you been post-Giro? Because it was a very big 3 weeks.
Oh, mate, very good. Hitting my straps, to be honest, mate. Winter back down in Australia. That means one thing. That means surf. That means winter swell. Mate, the boards have been cracked out. Been making use of the long weekends, getting in the water. Formula rubber on me. But that's been good, mate. I've enjoyed my time in between, sort of following the Giro and how good that was. But, mate, how good was last night's stage of the Dauphine? We're recording on the Monday night, so stage 2 is happening now for everybody listening along. That has just got the fire lit again in me, watching Vingegaard rip it up. So I'm good, mate. I'm ready to get back into the thick of things. Yourself, though, mate, you've been on the bike. You're at training camp, hey?
I'm at training camp, mate. Got a big event down in August, the state champs for gravel coming up. So just getting a little bit of bike packing under the way, just, some tension in the legs and some beers as well at the pub when you arrived. Very good. Very good. And, you mentioned last night, I tell you what, when you see Van der Poel, Remco, Vingegaard and Pog all in the same group and Santi Petrago, the imposter, it's going to be a very good lead up into the tour. We've got some events happening this week as well, Tommy. We've got the Pedal Mafia Zwift event celebrating 10 years of Zwift in Australia with some... we're actually doing some racing. There's $1,000 on the line and some punters from Perth, some superstars as well, actually. One particular will be racing for $1,000. Yeah, my wife, actually, Megan, she's in there.
You should good on her. You should put your name down, mate. Put your name down, mate.
I'm hosting, mate, and they can't pay me enough. They can't pay me enough.
You're in the cashies, hey? You're earning more than the prize.
The prize pool was actually $5,000, but then they had to invoice me. So looking forward to that. And we've got also our Tour de France Sundowner, you and I, mate, coming together to put it's a bit of a French special, isn't it, that night?
Yeah, it certainly is. It's for everyone listening in Perth, Alliance Francaise. They've been putting together, a sundowner, and sort of we analyse the route, we present the route. Well, I've done that the last couple of years. And you talk to the riders. I think we got Jess Allen and a couple other people on. So yeah, it's the third year of this event. It's pretty bloody good, mate. So it's a busy weekend, isn't it? Hey?
It is very busy. Winter for the Oceania listeners, it's arrived. So if you're not on Zwift and you haven't given it a crack, you haven't got your ergo out, now's the time to do it. Keep on top of your winter form with Zwift, the #1 indoor training platform there is. You can try it for free as well. 7 days free, I believe. So if you haven't tried it already, give Zwift a go. But let's get into our episode today, Tommy. This is Roadside, presented by Zwift. So, Tom, our FE Sports Roadside news, we've got a lot to get into, but we must remind everyone that our Tour de France coverage will, of course, be beginning with a big Tour de France preview in a couple of weeks. The week before our first stage on the 5th of July, and then throughout the race, we'll be doing 2 episodes per week or every 3 stages, recapping all the major issues, all the major race results and talking points to keep you guys up to date. So make sure you are following for our Tour de France coverage. Results, Tommy. The first one's off the rank. I love this one. The Tour of Britain. The Femmes, of course, were racing, and Ali Wollaston got her first GC victory of her career, taking it out on the very last stage.
Yeah, she certainly did, the Kiwi. She hit her straps pretty late in the Australian summer and hasn't slowed her down one little bit back in Europe, hasn't, mate? Is she having the year that you thought she would have? She's gone to FDJ Suez, the big French team, and to notch this win up, it's pretty big, leading in obviously to the peak of summer for her at the tour.
Yeah, she's young, developing. I think FDJ Suez would be pretty happy with how she's progressing, and to take this victory is really good. And ahead of another young superstar as well, Kat Ferguson, who, to be fair, she was actually leading this race, and she had a puncher that kind of ruined the final day for her, but she still landed on the podium. And, regardless, she's going to be both women are going to be the superstars of the future. We talked about the Dauphine just off the top as well, Tommy, Pogacar, Van der Poel, Remco, Vingegaard, all lit it up. With Pog winning that sprint on stage 1, and stage 2 is happening as we're recording. That was a very special opener, Tom. We'll talk about that a bit later in the pod, but there is some big news coming out of the INEOS camp.
Yeah, certainly. Hey, and amongst all the action, this is probably the biggest news. And to be honest, I'm not surprised to see this headline. Dave Brailsford, Sir Dave Brailsford, he's going to return to INEOS. He's going to steer the ship, the captain, the commander, the chief, the CEO, all of the above. He is returning from his day-to-day role at Manchester United, and he's going to be the head director of sport at INEOS. It's going to involve him, to be a lot more hands-on. He's sort of been maybe, I don't think, a bit of a removed consultant, or maybe just providing a little bit of guidance from afar. So it's a big step forward for the British squad, who at the moment we understand are looking for another sponsor. They're in talks with other bike brands. They're in talks with other French teams about a merger. So there's a few plates up in the air at the moment, but I feel pretty comfortable knowing that Brailsford can catch them all.
Yeah, I reckon Brailsford is a very, very good operator. And even though Manchester United kind of went to shit, that wasn't his fault. That was a sinking ship for a while. But what he did at INEOS or Sky when he was around, he was, during that time, extremely hands-on. He had his hands on every single part of the cycling operation there. And that might not be for everyone when he does arrive back at INEOS. There may be some other pieces that will move on the chessboard at within the management. But one thing's for sure, that his method was proven to be one of the biggest Grand Tour dynasties we've seen in a long time. And if they can get the man thereafter, that may be the real key piece of the puzzle. And that's moving on to our next bit of news, Tommy, that the rumours are increasing about Specialised moving to INEOS and Pinarello getting the boot, because we do know that the rumours for Remco have been rumbling for the last 2 or 3 years, and you'd have to suspect that Specialised are going to play a big part if this deal is to go through. And if they manage to get onto INEOS's team, the Specialised that would be a big, big part of it.
Yes, this is interesting though, mate, isn't it? Putting the rumours into the FE Roadside News. That's where our level of credibility stands, and I think FE, they're along for the ride. But you're right, isn't it? It's interesting, Specialised moving into INEOS. It would be a bit of a pound for pound, and even Pinarello, are they going to follow Tom Pidcock down the Q36.5 route to sort of make sure they still stay in the game with a big star? So it's once again, it's just, this chat is going to get hotter as the Tour de France approaches.
It is, and it's funny, FE Sports actually distribute Pinarello, so
they do.
They're not knocking their frames; they're good stuff. But it is going to be very interesting. And you're right. I mean, I wonder if Remco will get any questions throughout the tour about his future, because he did cop a lot of those, a few years ago at the Giro. The Tour de France Femmes 2026, Tommy. This has been announced just last week, that the Grande Part next year for the Tour de France Femmes will be in Lausanne, which is in Switzerland, and it will be there for the first 3 stages. How was my pronunciation?
I'm going to have to anchor this presentation, aren't I, on Saturday? Do I need to write down the names of the cities as it sounds, alliteration? No, you're on the money. I'm pretty close too. This is a gorgeous corner of the world. Hey, anybody who's listening along in sort of the southwestern part of Switzerland, this is absolutely gorgeous corner of the world. So I'm a fan of seeing this. I'm a fan of the Tour de France Femmes. They do it a little bit differently, don't they, to what the Christian Prudhomme, the men's director, does. I think it's Marion Rousseau, who's the director there over the Femmes. And she's done an outstanding job. I think she's brilliant, and I reckon this is going to be huge, and it raises the rumor of having the big mountains really early on in the race, which I think after the last couple of years where we've had some big crashes impact some of the races, like Vollering getting taken out, and maybe sort of stage 3, I think it was. where you won't have that, will you? If you have the mountains to create that early selection.
Yeah, that is the rumour. Big Alpine stage on stage 3 for 2026 Tour de France Femmes, but looking forward to seeing how that goes. Of course, we were there at the Rotterdam Grand Parts last year at the Tour de France Femmes, and that was terrific. I mean, you just see how you can basically paint a town Tour de France colours. Everything was covered in Tour de France Femmes memorabilia. The trams that were going past were wrapped Tour de France Femmes. All the bus backs were Tour de France Femmes. There were banners hanging from the oldest buildings. They just took over the town. So it'd be really cool to see that happen in Switzerland as well. And really, it kind of goes off because the men's tour is also going to be a foreign Grand Depart in Barcelona. So both tours, men's and women's, will be in foreign Grand Departs, which is interesting too.
Yeah, it certainly is. And at the moment, though, this year, for the first time since 2020, the Tour de France will actually start and be entirely in France. So that just shows you the lengths that ASO are going to sort of flog off the races. And I know, and I've heard, it's money, it's making money, and it's, they've found markets. And I dare say I've heard that they're going to do that with the Vuelta coming up as well. I've heard that they might be starting in Italy. So they've got a bit of a thing for Italy, following obviously last year's race that started in Florence and Frienza. So it's obviously a bit of a moneymaker. And the teams, they can kick up a bit of a stink because it just adds this extra level of logistics if it's difficult. But it's got to be done well. So wait and see. But yeah, maybe we got to be there for that Barcelona one, mate.
It's definitely on our radar. 100%. I keep thinking about it, and it's 100% doable. Tour de Suisse, the men's Tour de Suisse is coming up very soon, and they will be introducing, both the men's and the women's edition, a full-time tracking GPS for all riders. Now, this comes off the real tragic occurrence that happened last year in the women's race, where one of the women's riders actually crashed and ended up passing away. And the real big part that was wrong with this whole thing from a risk point of view was that the race didn't know this rider had crashed or that where she was on the course. So this is, to try and improve those systems and reduce the risk of losing riders and being able to get to them quicker. The race director said all of the bikes will be equipped with a GPS small tracker that will sound an alarm in the event of a particular anomaly, such as the bike remaining stationary for 30 seconds, leaving the route, or rapidly changing in speed. So in this case, these cases, the organisation, I guess, will get some sort of alert to get their ambulance crew or whoever out there to the riders, which is really good.
Yeah, great news, isn't it? I actually just think it was the passing of the woman was at the World Championships, if I believe. It was,
yes.
But it's also fresh in our mind of Gino Mater as well, who passed away earlier on from the men's race. It was the young woman was Muriel Ferrer, and she was a junior competing at World Champs. So it's good to see a bit of action taken. You might think this is just common sense and something that should be applied at all races, but it's got to start somewhere, doesn't it? So, yeah, good to see.
Good to see. The South Australian government, this one for our Australian fans, has announced a $7.5 million funding boost for the Adelaide Superdrome. Now, for your international listeners, that is, South Australia is actually where the High Performance Centre is based for track cycling for our Australian athletes, both endurance and sprint disciplines. So that Adelaide Superdrome is used a lot for training purposes and also for UCI Nations Cup rounds. Now, the funding will ensure Australia's emerging and elite athletes have access to a world-class facility as they work towards the LA Olympics, which is in 2028, the next Olympics, and most importantly, the Brisbane 2032 Olympics and Paralympics. So it's a really, really big one, and it does make, we love to see this, more great facilities for our athletes, but it's also in contrast bittersweet because on the other state across the road in New South Wales, the Dunk Grey velodrome has its funding slashed, and the whole system there, the New South Wales Institute of Sport, has been really decimated and destroyed. And then in just one state over, $7.5 million has been announced to upgrade an already pretty good track. So it's contrasting, but I guess it's good for South Australia in the end.
Yeah, it certainly is, isn't it? And South Australia to continue to strengthen their grip on cycling, don't they? Obviously, they've got the World Tour races, but yeah, doubling down here. I don't know about it. It's already such a great establishment. I imagine that they want to obviously keep pumping it, but yeah, big, large sporting facilities at the moment are a hot topic here in Australia. Obviously, with the Tassie Devils that's going on down there, and the shit show, the political storm that's occurring. Oh. So, look, kudos to Oz Cycling for getting the funding when they can. It doesn't come along all too often. So, to be able to grab the money when they can, good on them. Is it the best call? Yeah, I dare say it probably would be. But
it just shows it does show where different states have different pools and bags of money to choose from, different funding pools they can access, and surpluses of funding as well that they may have gained. And we know that South Australia is becoming, along with WA, actually the events capital of Australia for music, for sport, for all the rest of it. And of course, we know how big the Tour Down Under is in Australia. It's the biggest event in Australia in terms of the economic impact it has on the state. They've got the gather round as well with the AFL footy, where they have the entire AFL play the entire round in Adelaide. That generates more funding, and perhaps they look at the sporting and recreation coffers, and they have $7.5 million to spend, along with some maybe government boosting, and maybe that's how they can get the job done. But I think it does show that when Australia spends money on sporting venues, it always ends up, at least in this modern day, in a really good result for the state, let alone the athletes as well.
Well, yeah, I tend to agree. And you can have a look at even Perth Stadium here that was, so controversial off the back of the Colin Barnett government when he and that coalition or Liberal government decided to, make that purchase when at the top of the boom, when facilities, resources, and construction was so expensive, there was a lot of commentary around it. But now, when you go to a Scorchers game during the summer, a Test game, you go to a football game. We had the Australia versus Japan here the other night on Thursday, and they had over 55,000 at Optus on a wet night. There on a Thursday night for a round ball game. The stadium is brilliant. It is just such an asset to Perth. So yeah, I hope you hear this in the Superdome. The Superdrome. It will just continue to be another sort of feather in the cap.
Yeah, well, good for Aussie athletes, and I'm sure there'll be plenty of Australian track riders who will be trying to change their state allegiance to South Australia. So if you want to get amongst those fundings, if we were going to use the wind tunnel there, Tommy, who would have the lower CDA on the individual pursuit setup? What do you reckon?
Oh, absolutely me, mate. Absolutely. I just tuck right in, mate. I'm like Castro de Viejo. Just, an absolute bullet, mate. Absolute bullet. You've lost it.
Oh, good Lord. Okay, well, that was all our FE Sports Roadside news. You've got some big discussion points coming up after this. Now, FE Sports, they've actually released Pirelli, of course, a product of FE Sports distribution, have released a new tyre 2 weeks ago, actually, during the Giro. It is called the Cintralato Evo, available in tubeless and, of course, clincher. This one is your endurance tyre. So for your riders out there who really just want to get a lot of miles out on your bicycle, you're not so far inclined to racing, you just want a nice, durable tyre. The Cintralato Evo is the one. Natural rubber, 50% more recycled materials used inside this particular casing, and just another great option put forward by Pirelli. But this is Roadside, presented by Zwift. Okay, Tommy, the big three at the Dauphine. It's happening right now. Stage 2 is on as we are recording. Stage 1 was that was just what really lit the fire, what we've been waiting for ahead of this Tour de France, because as we know, the Dauphiné, the Criterium of Dauphiné, is the practice race. It is the dress rehearsal for the Tour de France. And boy, oh boy, was the first act electrifying.
It is not a practice race anymore, is it? It is not a tune-up race. They are fresh off the volcano, the big three. They have come from the volcano, Sierra Nevada. They're there, and they're ready to win. These guys want to win. Vingegaard's there, and he's, what we saw last night was just an electric stage. So, the Dane was the animator of it who got that initial group up the road, and these big three, I'm going to hate that term come the end of July, but the big three are just electric. This is some seriously good racing, isn't it, mate?
It is, and they're all in form. They're all just pinging. We got Remco saying he's dropped 10 kilos since last year's, or not 10 kilos. I think he said he's 2.5 kilos lighter, but he's done it over a longer period of time because last year he did have to slice and dice pretty quickly. But Remco's looking magnificent, and Pog and Jonas are just kind of trying to shoulder off the favoritism as they go towards the Tour. But one thing's for sure,
they're not though. Richard Pluge, the head Jumbo DS, he's gone on pre-race yesterday. They've gone on record on Jonas is favourite, or if not better than Tadej. And then across the road, Gianetti's been like, Tadej's by himself. He's in a league of his own. And then Jonas and Tadej have just been like, mate, we don't care. We're just here to race. Like, they're just war of words from the directors, and the riders themselves are just the most chilled out units. It's been interesting.
It's going to make our Tour de France Sundowner preview we're doing here in WA very, very spicy if this Dauphine just like lights it up for that. But my question to you, Tommy, is the rider who wins the Dauphine, and it's going to be one of these three, and if one of these three don't win it, something's happened, there's been an accident or something, but is the rider that wins the Dauphine this year the hot favourite for the Tour de France?
Oh, you'd have to say, obviously nothing beats having runs on the board, but you would have to say, yes, they are the favourite. The Dauphine, it's a hard race. The last three stages are pretty demanding. I think it's stage 6 is a bit of a feature stage of what we're going to see on one of the stages in the latter, in the Alps, rather. I believe stage 19 is a 130-kilometre stage, which features 3 uncategorised climbs. That's what we're going to see in one of the later stages at the Dauphine. But I think long gone other times where you build into Grand Tour, so to speak. You still do, but if you're not on top form at the Dauphine, you're chasing your tail. It's better to be on form and holding form than it is to be chasing form and trying to ride yourself into it. So I think, it's a huge indicator. It's a massive indicator. If, particularly the time trial that we have, it's around a 30-kilometre time trial with a slight hill in it. That's going to be a huge one to look for, to see who's done their homework in the chrono over the year, who's made those small improvements. And, that's going to be a really big indicator as well. So I think, it is.
Remco is going to really like that TT. He has to win that TT. He will win that TT. But I'm really interested to see how Remco's form is going, because last year he had a really rushed. We mentioned they had a rushed preparation to the Tour, and he had to drop a bit of weight quite fast. It was almost dropping weight for an Arnold bloody a bodybuilding competition. But he's done it at a much more sustainable rate, and I'm really interested to see how close he is to Jonas and Pog on that longer climbing stage, because I think the 20, 25 minute, 30 minute climbs, I think he's going to be close-ish, but it's the long ones I want to see if Remco's closer, because the closer he is, the even juicier the battle will be at the Tour de France on the 5th of July. So Remco, I think, is a bit of a talisman for our GC fight going into France, and watching him at the Dauphiné is going to be fascinating, because Remco, he's just a baller, isn't he? He's just a baller.
You love people who put their words on the record early on, and he's that sort, isn't he? You're on the money though. Pog himself is not a huge favourite at longer climbs. Jonas, that's where he's sort of cut his teeth, so to speak. This year at the Tour de France Prud'homme, and I will talk about this more openly at a Tour de France preview, but the route, Prud'homme's built it around long climbs. So a lot of the summit finishes, so to speak, like the Col de la Loze that they finish on, that Pog's actually lost time on the last 2 times they've raced. They're all 20-kilometre plus climbs in length. So they're all going to be around that sort of that hour 50 to an hour long. Pog and Remco do not, they have not proven themselves at those climbs to be on the same level as Jonas. So it's going to be a really fascinating. Like, I think Pog, he'll get time wherever, he'll make time, and he'll just pull something out of his ass or something like that on those long climbs and show that he is a champion. He'll be there in the fight. But for Remco, wow, like you said, the Dauphine, I think, is more important for Remco than it is for almost anybody else there. And don't forget, last year, Jonas, he also had that interrupted build-up to the Tour de France. So, yeah, go from nearly sort of dying, so to speak, to riding the Tour was, miraculous in itself. And to be finishing on the podium was a statement as well of the character. So it's going to be a real line in the sand, I think, for Remco, this Dauphine. I can't see anyone. Can you see anyone outside of those big three sort of challenging either at the Dauphine or anyone from Swiss?
No, I can't. I can't at all. And I don't think we should, the rest, I'm not even looking at the rest. No chance. Not past him. And, it's interesting, Tommy, during the, just during our prep for our Tour de France preview, which will release, of course, a week before the Tour starts, last week of June, it probably will be. Pogacar won his first Tour de France in 2020, and then he won his next one in 2021, 2 in a row. And then Jonas came along and said, hey, I'll win 2022, and I won back-to-back in 2023. And we are going to get, at the Tour this year, we're going to get the 2023 Vingegaard up against Pogacar. So that is going to be fascinating, and we'll dive more into it, I think, when we get to our Tour de France preview. Can't give away all our bickies just yet, but speaking of the Tour, and speaking of stinkers, the Netflix, the last series of the Tour de France, Unchained, thank God that name is gone forever, is going to be released. The final season of this, because it's been cut because it was not successful. It's being released 3 days or 2 or 3 days before the Tour de France. Now, first of all,
late, isn't it?
Two questions. Yeah, why? Who? They've got so much money behind this product. Who's the person in charge of that decision? What? Even someone with no knowledge of this would know that's a terrible idea a couple of days before the Tour. And my big question, Tommy, is, will you be watching it?
Firstly, terrible decision to release it 3 days. You release it now, in my opinion. Get it going. Yes. You carry the momentum right up to the Tour de France. Get them watching the Dauphiné. It's funny, mate. People like it. Punters love it. Some of the punters they're fascinated with it. And the riders themselves, I think they have quickly grown disinterested in this product. They realize how volatile it is. The producing, the grease ball producers who have done some of their best work, on cutting together grabs that make no sense. They're getting directors from one stage saying something and putting it in with a line from stage 20. So will I be watching? Yeah, I'll entertain it. I'll put it on the background while I'm doing something else, a bit of industry research, of course. It's an interesting one. They've just done it in a shit way. There is no other sort of poetically way to put it. But and also releasing it in French and not having an English variant, I didn't understand. So
the trailer they released for the Netflix Unchained season 3 was in French. Like, that's the whole problem with this show. It's the reason why it never succeeded, and it didn't get the numbers it was looking for, not even close to anything that we saw like Drive to Survive, which really has never been touched with any of these reruns they've tried to do. Mm-hmm. You put it in French, you're trying to target like a mass audience. You have to look outside the French audience. It's English is like the biggest language in the world. You're trying to reach those Anglo-Saxons. You got to get. Well, you shouldn't just be putting it in French. It's just a big mistake, and one of the reasons why I think it really just flopped. And, I was listening to Life in the Peloton last week. They had Ben O'Connor on, of course, your great mate, and they were talking to him about Netflix, the series. And Ben said he would never, ever go on that show again because of how they portrayed him in that series, maybe season 2, where they were trying to make up this really strange rivalry that is not there between him and Jai Hindley, and also just making him look like a flog to his team, AG Desert. They did it all wrong, and they had the keys to the city.
Precisely. And like, some of the stuff they did was just a crock of shit. Him and Jai, for starters, just, very good mates. Get together, have a few beers when Jai was still living in Andorra, sort of stuff. Like there was, it was perplexing. And absolute rubbish. Really poor from the producers. So, I don't mind seeing it die. It can die a sad death. It can move on, and it can be one of those, I don't know, old forgotten memories in cycling.
Well, it might be reborn because the rumours are that they are going to do a Tour de France Femmes Unchained. So they're going to swap over to the women's. I want to see, they've got the resources and the content to make something really special, and perhaps they might learn their lessons from this rubbish they've done for 3 years, and perhaps correct their mistakes in the women's side, because the women's side probably could benefit from it more than the men's side, just in terms of where the sports are at in their levels. But it's going to be interesting anyway. It comes out 3 days before on Netflix. The Factor road bike, to change the topic, Tommy.
You love this thing. Obviously, the Tour de France, the Dauphiné, it's when we see a lot of new products released, and the bike brands that will use the Dauphiné and Swiss, and they'll put bikes that are about to be released on the start line at these two events. For all the listeners here, this is what they do. And they don't put any stickers on it. So it stands out like a sore thumb for all the journos, the tech writing, who they cover all the tech side of the sport. They're walking up and down the pit lanes looking for stuff, and this thing this is Mecca. This is Jerusalem. This is, heaven almighty for them come through. They just look at this and they grabbed it. Cycling News. It was their best day ever. And you heard it as well, mate.
It was. I just completely ripped it as I saw the article pop up on Instagram, did a quick reel about it. And I'm thinking, once you put something up on the internet, that's it. It's gone. It's 2025. It's up there. I've lost count of the amount of episodes of TPR that got ripped into Cycling News articles. But, this bike, right? The front end
awesome.
fork, it looks disgusting.
No way. It looks brilliant.
Disgusting.
Everyone said that when they saw the Cervelo come out. They were like, what is this? The flared handlebar. It was this massive step forward that people just went, I can't comprehend this. And now the Cervelo S5 is one of the most touted, most respected aero bikes going around. I reckon this thing's got, I'm a fan of it. I like it. Also, you got Jake Stewart riding it at the Dauphiné. Like, what better environment do you have to test a bike? I like it from Factor.
Yep.
I rate it.
I think he won the bunch kick as well behind.
Yeah, he did. He was fifth.
What
do you reckon they'll retail for? What do you reckon they'll go for?
Good.
I reckon frames they'll be $20,000.
$20,000 easily. Like a Pinarello frame is like $14,000 just on its own. So I actually think, this is my take, I reckon, do you remember those bars that were brought out that were like, they had a massive, I think
Factor. Not Factor, sorry, Canyon.
No, it wasn't Canyon. It was on the Lotto, Team Lotto. And it was one of their riders, a Dutch rider. He had these crazy bars. They were like 30 centimeters and they had this ridiculous reach on them. And they were used for about 2 weeks before the UCI ripped them and said, nah, you can't ride that thing. And I reckon somehow UCI will just be like, nah, that's going to be, you may have been approved, but we're changing our mind because it looks terrible.
Yeah, maybe.
You can't ride that bike.
I love it, man. I want one. It looks so much fun. I reckon it would just hum. You'd get it above 40 kilometers, and I'm not one for all the bells and whistles on a bike, but I reckon it would sing along. So get them in Australia, get it down here. I want to see one. I wonder what it weighs.
Well, the fork probably weighs 10 kilos, that's for sure. The thing is huge, mate. It is huge. In other news, Tommy, Vollering. Demi Vollering was fined 100 Swiss francs. That'll really hurt her bank balance and relegated at what race was she in? Was this the?
It was Catalunya. She was at Catalunya. She won Catalunya. So 3 days of racing.
Her teammate had won, and she was celebrating at the back with her hand up in the pillow, and she got relegated to 16th place, I think, and fined. So, geez, for something like that.
I hate this. Reduced bunch kick uphill. Vollering is like 10 wheels back, and she's just done the one hand up in the air, got one on the bars. the fist pump. She's won the overall. Her teammates won the stage, the last stage. You can just, you're in the middle of summer, so to speak. The momentum's building towards the Tour de France for them. This is just put this in the bin. This is just headlines that UCI just do not need.
Yeah, don't need to do it. Vollering said that she'll never do that again in response to that fine, and just, of course, it could cost her the GC at the Tour de France. I'm sure we'll see her keep both hands on the bars. Now, Tom, we've got our Aussie wrap-up coming up. We're going to see where all the Aussies are at in the World Tour and in and around the country. It's going to come up right after this break.
Easy been, because it's not just been Europe and the Giro where we've been notching up victories, eh?
That's right. In Asia is where we're starting off for our Australians at the, let me get this right, the Tour de Guanyam, which was
I just wanted to lead you into that one. I didn't want to handle that one.
Oh, God. Who knows where that is? Nobody knows where that is. But anyway, it's just one of those. Sure. South Korea. That big race was on, 5-stage race, and our Cache body wrap, really the dominating team, or one of the two dominating teams with Team Brennan, of course, in Australia were there. Liam Walsh. In fact, the whole team took the piss, really. They actually won 3 stages. Cam Scott won the sprint stage 3, and Liam Walsh got stage 4 and 5 on the chocolates. And I don't know if you saw the highlights in the last they did the last 2K sort of highlights package. Cache body wrap were just doing a 6-man lead out, just pinning the bunch to the right-hand side of the road. There's like 10 guys left behind them, and then just launching either Scotty or Liam Walsh. It was just a clinic, and I felt bad for just these riders in the wheel. They were just groveling, and they were no chance against Cache body wrap.
Wonderful music to my ears, Cache. They went over there. They took the big units. They took, obviously, the big sprinter, Liam Walsh, but then they took the JC driver, and they also took Connor Lee from the TP Olympic team.
Jack Dola, JD.
They took Jack Dola, so very good. But also Australian Dylan Hopkins, he won the GC after winning the first stage. I believe he was up the road in the break, actually, on the first stage with Lee. So leapt away, took the stage, kept the jersey, and he's got that stage victory to his name. On a local front, this is one I'm a fan of, mate, just quickly, and I believe it deserves a pretty big shout out as well. Tony Tucknott here in WA, he's receiving an Order of Merit on Monday for his contribution to mountain biking in Australia. He's been around more bike races, doing all the bits and pieces to bring it all together and make sure it happens in his own time, longer than we've been around cycling. So it's wonderful to see someone like that receive the recognition that they so rightly deserve.
100%. Tony, anyone that races a mountain bike in Australia will know the Tucknott name. Of course, his two children as well, Sarah Tucknott and Reese Tucknott. But Tony, he's been involved with commentating mountain bike races, putting on the biggest mountain bike races in Australia. Of course, Cape to Cape, a big part of that, and a big reason for major mountain bike events that have come into Australia, like the World Masters Championships, and just anything mountain bike he's touched in Australia. So Tony Tucknott, Order of Merits on a King's birthday here in Australia. So big recognition for him. The Aussies, Tommy, to keep an eye on at the Dauphine and the Tour of Swiss as we lead into the Tour de France. Who is going to be out there and where are they?
Well, the Dauphine at the moment, you got Jack Haig and Stannard over at Bahrain victorious. Alistair McKellar, he's at EF. Hamilton at Post Picnic SNL rather. He is there fresh off the Giro, so I don't really know if he's there just making up numbers alongside Hepburn at Jayco. He's just, those boys off the Giro, they're just logging the kilometres, doing the work, riding the wind. Good on them. They've got Grand Tour legs in them at the moment. And across next Sunday, when Tour of Swiss starts, the other lead-up race for the Tour. Some bigger names. We've got Jay Vine. Obviously, we knew he left the Giro d'Italia early with sickness. He might even be a start for the Tour. I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't even be surprised if he's going to this Tour of Swiss to try and win it. And he'll obviously share that ambition with other West Australia. O'Connor, who goes there as a leader for Jayco. He'll go there probably as co-leader with Michael Matthews. And sort of a core group as well for that Tour de France team is there with maybe Luke Durbridge, who I dare say is close to cementing his role as sort of that overall helper in the team. Callum Scottson as well. He's over at Decathlon nowadays, and he is there trying to help Felix Gall win the Tour of Swiss. So Callum Scottson, he hasn't done the Tour de France yet, so I dare say he's really trying to fight to put himself in position to go there, and doing some good work over there. That'll pay dividends for his spot, because it's hard to get a start in a French team. They only take so many non-French riders. And then Lucas Hamilton, Damon Howson, they're sort of just making up the numbers after doing the Giro.
Yeah, that's funny. Bling. Where is he? He barely see Michael Matthews, do you? He just pops up at the big races, and I'm looking forward to see. He'll be in good shape. He's always in good shape, Big Bling. And I think you're right with Vine.
First week suits him.
Yeah, it does. It does. And Vine, I think he's going to have a good shot at Tour de Suisse. Also, I said at the Giro when he pulled out that he was weak as piss because I didn't know he was sick. But it turns out the reason he left the Giro is because he was sick, and some of the J-Vine.
Yeah, he was very sick.
Enthusiasts were upset. So I do like J-Vine, and of course, yeah, he's not weak as piss. He was just sick as a dog. But hopefully he has a good run at the Tour de Suisse. You know, I saw a highlight, Tommy, before we wrap up, of a tour, the Dauphine a couple of years ago when Richie Porte was in. It was the best SBS shared, I think, a reel of the highlights of that final stage. There was nobody more in the peak of their form in their life than this particular year of the Dauphine and Richie Porte. He was unbelievable, and it was the year that Richie Porte and Chris Froome, their friendship deteriorated. They changed teams. Of course, Chris Froome being on Sky, Richie left to go to BMC to be the leader. And that particular Dauphine, Chris Froome kind of got all the other GC contenders, including Fuglsang and a whole heap of other losers, to try and gang up on Richie. And he still smoked him all on the climb anyway. And I think he ended up losing that GC by like 1 or 2 seconds. And that was the end of their friendship. And I just saw that highlight that SBS shared. It just took me right back.
Yeah, it was a bit of a throwback. Good on SBS there. Jamie Finch, he's pumping out some good clips over there. Shout out. But yeah, no, mate. Oh, God, if we could have a return of someone like Richie amongst the nets, yeah, that'd be great for Australian cycling, wouldn't it?
It would. Now, I haven't got on the run sheet, but do you have any in the guns? Is anyone in your radar over the last few weeks? Anything you can think of off the off the top?
Oh, mate, the big three. I'll put them in the gun. I'll put the big three in the gun. Mate, just the big three, just don't, whatever they do, the big three. Very exciting last night, but just do not crash. Do not bin it. Do not corrupt what is going to be a great Tour de France. Please, for the love of God, just make sure you get through the Dauphiné, survive it. Do not. I want to see the battles, obviously, on the mountains, and then, they can fight each other all then, but Vingegaard and Remco and Tadej just ripping it around some little French village in the Dauphiné on the opening stage is taking the mickey. I was thinking, maybe it's just trying to get out of the way of the bunch sprint last night. Just get ahead of it, If you're ahead of the break, ahead of the bunch sprint, you can't be involved in it. And so I'll put them in the gun, mate.
I don't mind that. Not bad.
What about you?
But not bad for an impromptu in the gun. I'm gonna have to edit that. Edit the intro for in the gun as well, because I've just got to remove a couple of people from the Sting. I just got to remove a couple of grabs. I'm going to change the Sting and I'll swap in some more. So if anyone's got any suggestions about the bits of audio that can go in the Sting, it can be anything. Just let me know. But my in the gun is actually you, Tommy, because I'm looking at your. That's right, you. I'm looking at your Strava here, mate, and I have to say it looks bare bones, mate. I know we're heading into winter, but Tommy, don't be a summer cyclist, mate. Don't be a summer cyclist. You got to get some Ks in. You've done less than 200 Ks since the end of April. You need a lift.
I wouldn't believe everything you read, mate. I wouldn't look into saying nothing there and think that I'm not absolutely motoring on the bike. Yeah, I'm just keeping you in ignorance, mate. Don't you worry about it. Cometh the moment.
Okay.
Cometh the state gravel championships here in WA, and that'll be us, mate. We'll be tussling it out for the 70th spot.
Speak for yourself, mate. Just one last thing I forgot. We were meant to mention it earlier in the episode, but look out for the Tour de France coverage, because we will have a new sponsor coming on board, Tommy, for the tour lift out. We won't say who it is just yet, but if you like mounting things, you're going to enjoy this one, because it's a big giveaway for everyone listening. But time to go, Tommy. We've got things to do, places to be, and thanks everyone for listening.
Yeah, we got Tour de France presentations to write. Let's get into it.